Evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. Welcome to the weather map discussion for Monday, the 24th of October, 2022. Some more pumpkins starting off the video here this evening. We are now only 7 days out from Halloween. And in tonight's video, in addition to the weather map discussion for tomorrow, I do plan on going a little bit into some longer range factors of what's ahead, to include a sneak peek of Halloween. So let's go ahead and take a look first at what's going on. Satellite image here on the left with the colder cloud tops in the green coloring generally show, anytime you get the colder cloud tops, by the way, that generally indicates precipitating clouds. So what we have going on this evening across the United States is we do have some showers, some cooler cloud tops moving into parts of the Pacific Northwest, including Oregon. And then additionally, we have a frontal boundary here draped across the upper Midwest down through parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, all the way down to the Dallas area this evening, with an upper level low over the Texas Panhandle. So we have a lot of moisture that's streaming up ahead of this particular frontal boundary this evening. In fact, we also do have, the Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk for strong thunderstorms over the northeastern portion of Texas. So there is a potential for some convective thunderstorm activity this evening. And then further over off the New England coast rather, we do see some scattered showers, and this is in association with a weak area of low pressure that has basically propagated or moved from just off the mid-Atlantic coast yesterday on the 23rd of October all the way up to New England coast now. You do note one other area of colder cloud tops here in the satellite image this evening in the lower right-hand corner of these green colorings here. This is indicative of a potential tropical system development. The National Hurricane Center earlier this afternoon had this area at about a 70% chance of development. So just remember one thing here, the Hurricane Center, or the hurricane season rather, goes all the way out to the 30th of November. Here's a radar image on the right, generally backing up what I discussed over here regarding the satellite. We do see some scattered showers along Interstate 5, there up along the Pacific Northwest coast. We do see a few scattered areas of precipitation in parts of Idaho. And then we do have that upper level low, which is situated over North Texas with some showers rotating around it. And additionally, we have that solid band of rain extending from Minneapolis, St. Paul down through Des Moines, just touching the Quad Cities to the east, right on down just east of Kansas City through the northern part of Missouri, down through the Branson area, extending southwestward into parts of western Arkansas this evening. And then there's those scattered showers there off New England, over Maine, and generally off the New England coast into parts of far southeastern Canada. So this is what's going on right now this evening, the 24th of October, 2022. Now let's take a look at the surface analysis for this evening, and then we'll delve into the forecast for tomorrow with the weather map discussion. All right, so what we have going on along the west coast of the United States, specifically the Pacific Northwest, there's an area of low pressure, generally in the vicinity of the Puget Sound area, an occluded frontal boundary extending south from it along the west coast of Washington and Oregon. And that's producing those scattered showers I showed you here on the previous slide. We have some scattered showers there along the Interstate 5 corridor of the Pacific Northwest. We generally have high pressure situated over the Intermountain West region. So very chilly temperatures up at the higher elevations into the lower 40s in the Rocky Mountains. And then as we move further east, we do see an occluded low pressure system situated over central Canada with an occluded front extending southwest from it, and then a cold front extending basically from western Wisconsin all the way down into eastern Iowa, the central parts of Missouri, right on down to southeastern Oklahoma. And so again, out ahead of this frontal boundary is where we're getting some pretty good vertical lifting, and there's the radar to back it up to this evening. You see it kind of matches well with what's going on, that precip, heavier showers right along the frontal boundary across the central part and midwestern part of the United States. We have an area of high pressure that's situated over West Virginia this evening at about 1020 millibars, and there's that weak low pressure system off the Jersey coast this evening at 1017 millibars. And it's just, the coastal areas from Virginia northward have just kind of been socked in that low stratus cloud deck all day today. You go drive a little bit further inland away from the marine influence, away from the coast, and you actually got some pretty decent weather today with a lot of clear skies. All right, so now let's take a look and examine the weather charts for tomorrow. Starting off with the 300 millibar wind speed forecast for the 25th of October, Tuesday. All right, so the next few graphics or slides, the slides I'm going to show are going to show generally, this is Tuesday morning, the 25th of October on the left of each slide. And on the right-hand side of each slide, I'm going to go into Tuesday evening, the 25th of October. So we're going from early morning to early evening. All right, so first things first, let's take a look to see what's going on. We do see a jet streak extending tomorrow morning from parts of Oregon into parts of southern Idaho into parts of Montana with wind speeds in excess of 100 knots. And then we see this troughing configuration here over the North Texas area for Tuesday morning, the 25th of October. That's an association with an upper level low. And then we see basically the wind really strong at 300 millibars up through Iowa, specifically across parts of southeastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin, on up into Canada. Now this is associated with very strong southerly wind at 300 millibars or 30,000 feet. So very strong winds at the jet stream level with this jet max. And then by the time we get to the evening, the forecast here on the right, we do see a new jet max, a new area of higher velocity winds within the jet core, starting to approach the Oregon area. And then the jet axis just basically goes west to east from southern Oregon into parts of Wyoming, into parts of the Dakotas. And then you see more of a southwesterly wind regime across parts of Canada, just north of the Minnesota border by tomorrow evening. And a much stronger jet maximum or jet streak across parts of eastern Canada. There is a little bit of a finger of the jet here across parts by tomorrow evening across parts of Arkansas into North Mississippi. Looking at the 500 millibar wind heights vorticity for tomorrow, the 25th of October, 2022, what is the biggest thing that sticks out right here is this, basically it's a ball of vorticity. See this red coloring here? Whenever you see the red shading or the lighter colors, these aqua green colorings, that indicates positive vorticity areas in the atmosphere. Those are typically associated with shortwave troughs and rising vertical air motion and clouds and precipitation, specifically out ahead of the shortwave trough axis. So tomorrow morning we have this ball of vorticity situated over eastern Oklahoma, stretching down to North Texas. There's another area of vorticity that may be more of the shear vorticity due to stronger wind speeds aloft across parts of Minnesota into Canada. Additionally, we have a little bit area of lift and positive vorticity along the mid-Atlantic coast, down off the Carolina coast over the western Atlantic. There also will be a shortwave trough. There's a little bit of rising air motion in parts of eastern Montana down into Idaho for tomorrow morning, the 25th of October. By evening here on the right, we see that we have a closed upper level low situated over Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And we do see, again, this brighter coloring indicating higher values of vorticity or positive vorticity, which is an association with rising air motion, clouds, and precipitation. So very interesting there in the mid-Mississippi Valley for tomorrow evening. By tomorrow evening also, we'll see a shortwave trough begin to move into the Pacific Northwest. Out ahead of that shortwave trough, we have areas of positive vorticity advection. Looking at the 700 millibar vertical velocity and heights for tomorrow, the 25th of October. Again, the main feature for tomorrow is going to be right over the area here along the Oklahoma, Arkansas border. We have a lot of positive vertical velocity values, these pink colors indicating rising air motion right up through 700 millibars, or that 10,000 foot level above the ground, association with this troughing feature into parts of northeastern Texas. Additionally, we see some positive vertical velocity values across parts of western Montana into the Pacific Northwest. We do see a shortwave ridge, which is extending generally from the mid-Atlantic northward to New England. I mean, it's looking pretty calm as far as the conditions go. The forecast here on the right for tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening, the 25th of October, 2022, we see again that closed low there over right around the Cape Girardeau, Missouri area. And there are some positive vertical velocity values out ahead of that upper level close low over parts of Indiana down southward towards Kentucky, Tennessee, as well as Alabama. The shortwave trough moves ashore by tomorrow evening across the Pacific Northwest. Out ahead of that shortwave trough axis, we do see the positive vertical velocity values from Seattle working our way south down Interstate 5, just off the northwestern Oregon coast. So basically, our features of the shortwave level for the shortwaves at 700 millibars include a shortwave trough moving ashore Pacific Northwest, and then a much deeper closed low system over Cape Girardeau, Missouri, with a shortwave trough extending down in the Mississippi area, and then there's a shortwave ridge over the east coast. Looking at the 850 millibar wind speed forecast for tomorrow, 25 October 2022. 850 millibars generally associated with about 5,000 feet above the ground level. Lots of wind energy in association with that closed upper level low over parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas by tomorrow morning. We do see some orange coloring here, and you look at the scale here on the right, that's indicative of winds in excess of 50 to 50, generally the 50 to 55 knot range at 5,000 feet above the ground. We've got more northwesterly winds behind the closed low, and we have more southwesterly winds ahead of the closed low. A lot of other wind energy that you see on the chart here for tomorrow morning is up into Canada with very strong southwesterly winds extending into eastern Canada. It looks to me like there's some sort of upper level low feature here just on the west shores of Hudson Bay, Canada. And then by tomorrow evening here on the right for the 850 millibar wind speed forecast, you'll see some stronger wind speeds moving into the Pacific Northwest in association with that shortwave trough that we just looked at 700 millibars. Additionally, we do see some stronger winds, cyclonic curvature around this trough axis. We do have stronger northerly winds into parts of Iowa and Missouri, and then stronger northwesterly winds just on the backside of the upper low across parts of southern Missouri into northern Arkansas. And then some additional wind energy out ahead of the trough. Now the winds are blowing from the south across parts of Kentucky and Indiana tomorrow evening. Looking at the precipitation forecast for tomorrow, 25 October 2022, if you've got travel plans across the United States, the main feature that's going to get you wet, maybe causing some wet roadways, you may have to slow down, across parts of southern Missouri down into Arkansas, Louisiana, East Texas, including the Houston area, as well as parts of Oklahoma on the backside of this closed low. You do see a little bit of cooler air there in the Pacific Northwest tomorrow morning with some scattered showers across parts of southern Idaho, but nothing too heavy there. Again, really the main feature is going to be this particular area of low pressure and the wet weather extending all the way actually northeastward into parts of the St. Louis area as well as Springfield, Illinois tomorrow morning. Now by tomorrow evening, we'll see that low slowly move off to the northeast. So now it's getting closer to that Cape Girardeau area in Missouri. Heavier rain showers spread northwest, or rather northeastward towards parts of central and northern Illinois by tomorrow evening, the 25th of October. So it's going to be quite a wet go tomorrow evening in Chicago. If you're driving home and from work in rush hour, or if you're just driving across Interstate 80 across northern Illinois, it's looking like a wet go, as well as Interstate 55 northward from St. Louis. Take that 55 interstate all the way south through Memphis, down to parts of Mississippi, Interstate 65 across Nashville and down into Alabama. That's also going to be a wet ride tomorrow evening if you got travel plans. So really the main wet area is over the central U.S. for tomorrow. We do see some rain showers moving into parts of the Pacific Northwest by tomorrow evening in association with that shortwave trough and upper air disturbance. Looking at the forecast high temperatures for tomorrow, the 25th of October 2022, and notice out ahead of the frontal boundary here, it's very evident. See this sharp line in the Midwest? For example, the state of Missouri is pretty much divided, where you have a high of only 52 in Kansas City, but a high of 63 and 64 degrees in the southeastern part of the state. The same thing with Illinois. Your high temperature is going to be around 72 degrees downstate in the southern part of Illinois, and then back towards the Quad Cities is 51. So you're looking at about a 21 degree temperature difference across this frontal boundary, which will remain draped across the Midwest. So very chilly conditions across the Pacific Northwest into the Rocky Mountain areas as well for tomorrow. So be prepared to dress a little bit more warmly If you have travel plans along Interstate 90 and 94 across the northwestern U.S., Interstate 84 as well. And then the warmest temperatures are going to be remaining in the Sunshine State, where high temperatures tomorrow will be in the low to mid 80s across Florida, and with those 70s widespread from the Gulf Coast up to the Ohio River Valley for tomorrow. Looking at the low temperatures for tomorrow night into Wednesday morning, the 26th of October, the coldest air remains up over northwestern Canada. We do see some very cold low temperatures though. The Bitterroot chain all the way down into parts of western Wyoming into the Rockies of Colorado, low temperatures into the upper teens and low 20s at those higher elevations. Very chilly across the upper Midwest, northern plains, low temperatures overnight tomorrow night into the lower 30s. And there are a couple areas of upper 20s as well over parts of North Dakota by Wednesday morning. And then as you move further southeast, things get milder. So now we see for a good chunk of the east, low temperatures generally ranging from the 40s into the low 50s, from Pennsylvania all the way down to Mississippi. And then we do see a little bit of a warm area here. The warmest low temperatures tomorrow night will be across Florida into parts of South Georgia. Now let's take a look at the sneak peek Halloween forecast. We're about a week out from Halloween. What is it looking like right now? Okay. Now this no doubt is going to change. The placement of these synoptic features is going to change. But I just want to kind of give you a sneak peek of what potentially could happen in 7 days' time. All right, so if you're trick-or-treating out towards Idaho, you could see a little bit of precipitation out there, very chilly temperatures. Looks really good across the central portion of the United States. Looks good in the New England area as of right now. And then the wettest conditions will be generally from Indiana southward in eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, including the Asheville area, as well as parts of the Carolinas into Georgia, down to the Gulf of Mexico, specifically the Florida Panhandle around the Tallahassee area. Could be a little bit wet next Monday for Halloween. I will continue to update this throughout the week as, again, these features, the positioning of these synoptic scale features are going to change, no doubt, between now and next Monday. Looking at the temperatures generally, now I took these temperatures to be generally about 7 to 8 p.m. in the evening. Generally looking at the mildest trick-or-treating temperatures, specifically in Florida. You know, you don't dress too watch your costume. We don't want to get overly dressed as far as costume goes in Florida for trick-or-treating, because the temperatures will be in the lower 80s. Additionally, you have 70s up to the mid-Atlantic coast next Monday night for Halloween trick-or-treating, and then milder across the central U.S. as well. The coldest temperatures will be for trick-or-treating will be out over the Pacific Northwest into parts of western Montana, western Wyoming, down into Utah and Colorado, this general area here. Okay, now bringing it closer to home to close out the weather map discussion portion of tonight's video. The Hampton Roads, Virginia 7-day outlook or 7-day forecast. Generally, we're looking at some lower clouds just trying to hang on along the coast tomorrow. High temperature about 70 degrees. And then things dry out a little bit more by Wednesday, where we see partly sunny skies giving way to mostly sunny skies by Thursday. So what's going to happen here, you notice the high temperature is going to be quite warm on Wednesday at 75, and then it's going to drop off 7 degrees between Wednesday and Thursday, down to 68 degrees for a high Thursday. We've got a cold front that's going to move through, but it's going to be a dry frontal passage, so we're not expecting any precipitation to occur with it, but we do see that cool down and that beautiful amount of sunshine again on Thursday with pleasant fall temps. Now, as we get to Friday, Saturday specifically, there's going to be a large pressure gradient that sets up between a 1035 millibar high, very strong high pressure system over southeastern Canada, and an area of low pressure over the western Atlantic. And so the Hampton Roads area in southeast Virginia is going to kind of like be between those two pressure systems, the high to the north and that low pressure to the southeast over the waters of the Atlantic. And that's going to result in a very tight or very steep pressure gradient, which could result in some gusty northeast onshore winds by Friday and Saturday. And you notice how it keeps the temperatures down too with these mostly cloudy conditions and that cooler northeasterly wind coming up Friday and Saturday. We do expect some scattered showers on Sunday with highs remaining in the upper 60s, and then it'll dry out a little bit more by Monday next week with a high of 69. So that's generally what we're looking at in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area If you have any plans and you live in the area, this is what we're looking at. Now, let's take a look at some longer range outlook factors. Let's take a look at this tonight. I first want to start off with showing you the sea surface temperature anomaly comparisons. This is October of 2021. This is today's date last year. These were the sea surface temperature anomalies for 24 October 2021 on the left. Look at what we got here. We got warmer than normal water indicated by the bright orange coloring. We got colder than normal water by the blue coloring. And look at the difference here now. This was last year on this date. This is this year. This is today. So what are some of the bigger changes you notice here, right? Well, first of all, you've got last year you had this anomalously warm area above normal water further to the east slightly where this blue shading is now. So we didn't have this above normal water extending all the way back to the Kamchatka area or towards parts of Korea, right? We didn't have, look at the difference here in the Gulf of Alaska between today, it's above normal waters off the coast of the west coast of Canada, and now look at this. This was last year, basically below normal water from the west coast of Canada up into the Gulf of Alaska, into the Bering Sea. This year, it's warmer than normal in this area. So you see that difference? We do see that La Nina signature this year, very apparent. And then look at the Atlantic side. This was last year on the left. Yeah, it was above normal immediately off the coast of New England, up off the coast of southeastern Canada and the Maritime provinces. But then look at this year. That area of above normal water temperatures is much larger and much more expansive in the North Atlantic. So I'm curious to see, okay, how this could dictate the overlying atmosphere, that positive feedback between the ocean surface and the overlying atmosphere, and how various pressure systems set up over these anomalously above normal areas and anomalously below normal areas, okay? Took a look at the satellite in detail across India today, Indian Ocean. There's actually a tropical cyclone sitting in this area today. There's a lot more convection that's been concentrated in this zone here, just to the west of Indonesia across the Indian Ocean. I've noticed that today as compared to Friday when I gave that last teleconnections discussion video. Right now, I'm going to give you an update on some other factors, so let's keep moving before I get ahead of myself. I tend to do that. Here's the forecast for the Stratospheric polar vortex, the GFS model on the left. And then we have the Madden-Julian oscillation, or MJO forecast. This is the European model, which runs from today, the 24th of October, out to the 7th of November. Okay? All right. One thing I want you to note first on the left here. If you see like the yellow mustard colors, that indicates above normal stratospheric temperatures. If you see the blue shading, that's colder stratospheric temperatures, okay? Look at the shape of these white solid contours, right? This is an elongation look to the stratospheric polar vortex over the North Pole. This is a forecast, and that's exactly what it is. It's a forecast. This goes out, this forecast image I'm showing is longer range, goes out to the 7th of November. See how this is stretched? All right, so whenever you elongate or stretch the polar vortex, this occurs because of weakening of the vortex. And so we're gonna have to watch how this elongation or stretching, how this may impact the temperatures in the middle latitudes as we get into mid-November, specifically later November. What's going to happen here? You know, who knows, because this is such long range. But I just wanted to show you about this potential stretching event of the stratospheric polar vortex in early November. Okay, so I'm watching this. Okay, I'm watching about the strength of the polar vortex. I'm watching this Madden-Julian oscillation, this MJ on the right. And basically, we're looking at this thing eventually going into the null phase. But things have changed since I last gave the teleconnections discussion on Friday last week. Friday last week I showed you forecast images for the MJO, which show it going through 6, weekly into the lower amplitude 7 phase, and then into this small inner circle at the center of the diagram into the null phase. Well, this particular model today is indicating a potential stall in the phase 6 phase of the MJO before begrudgingly going into the null phase. All right, see all these yellow lines too, by the way? These are all the different members in potential forecasts. And they range anything from a stronger amplitude into phase 7 We see some fairly significant amplitude rotation into phase 8. So right now the convection is concentrated in the Western Pacific, and that's why we're in MJO phase 6. That's a fairly mild MJO phase for most of the United States. The negative PNA has actually allowed troughing to occur in the western US and cool that area down. Now let's take a look at the longer range ensembles. Blue coloring indicates below normal heights, orange coloring above normal heights, blue coloring below normal heights associated with troughing, associated with cooler temperatures, associated with more unsettled conditions. Orange shading indicating dry, indicating warm conditions, okay? So what we're looking at, I'm going to show you the GFS ensemble forecasting system, the GEFS first. This is the 4th of November, so we're kind of getting our way into November, early November at this point. We see an upper level ridge positioned, generally located off the Pacific Northwest. We do see a downstream trough into the Intermountain West, eastward into the Northern Plains, central US. And then we see another ridge situated over parts of the southeastern Canada area on the 4th of November here on the left. Okay. When we go over here to the right, now we move it ahead 24 hours. This is the forecast at 500 millibars for the height anomalies for the 5th of November, 2022. And now you see we kind of have more of a west to east jet stream there south of the Aleutians, moving right into the Pacific Northwest. We see lower than normal heights across parts of Alaska into the Northwest Territories, far northern Canada. We also see an area of below normal heights now has shifted east towards the Midwest. And then we see an area of above normal heights again in that same general area it was here on the left on the 4th. It remains generally the same area on the 5th of November. Okay. What I see from the GEFS model from these two distinct graphics is more of a transitory upper air pattern, more progressive, which means that the ridges are moving off, the troughs are coming in, the ridges move across, and you just get these features moving across west to east in the mid-latitude flow. Okay, let's look at the European ensemble prediction system forecast. We have on the 4th of November, we have that upper level ridge situated higher heights, higher than normal heights across the Northeast Pacific, downstream troughing. We see that lower than normal height area in the blue, darker blue coloring in green, here across parts of the Dakotas, working southward into parts of Kansas. And then we see this fairly strong ridge across parts of eastern Canada. Forecast here on the right, according to the European EPS, that ridge is now built further northward. It's building its way into western Alaska, into parts of the Aleutians. Downstream, we have troughing. We're having troughing situated or setting up from northwestern Canada down into the central US, northern plains. And then we have this ridge. It's still fairly strong. And to me, at this point here, next on the 5th of November, according to the European ensemble prediction system, this is very close to being a negative NAO at this point. This upper level ridge is really starting to poke itself up towards Greenland at this point. I'm watching the position of this ridge in the long term. If this ridge were to shift just a little bit further toward the water, further out over the North Atlantic, this would definitely be a stronger negative NAO, and then this cooler air will slide further east by the 5th of November. Now, what about the temperature anomalies? Looks right now as if it's going to be a warm start to the November time period. So I'm looking at the 1st of November on the left and the 2nd of November on the right. The maroons and the browns and these bright orange colors indicate above normal temperatures, and the blue and greens indicate below normal temperatures. So what are you seeing here? The 1st of November on the left, 2nd November on the right. What sticks out? These well above normal temperature anomalies in southeastern Canada, as well as the upper Midwest and Ohio Valley, New England, down in the mid-Atlantic, in both cases. So we could be looking at a warm start to the month of November. We got temperature anomalies in the order of 15 to 20 degrees above normal from Illinois across to Ohio, Pennsylvania, on up into New England. Okay. All right, that's all I've got tonight. Just wanted to kind of cover some things with you. One thing I didn't mention, after this warm start, okay, kind of hinting at some changes here. Some of the longer range models, now of course this is going to change. In addition to this vortex stretching or elongation, we're seeing the prospects for more of a pattern change after mid-November to a more of a positive PNA again, and the potential for this negative NAO to set up on the Atlantic side. That's going to be watched closely, but for right now, things look fairly mild. They look fairly mild for the eastern U.S. Right on through the rest of October. You know, if you get the low, thick clouds, they tend to block the incoming solar radiation out. And so you get chilly days when you get those low, thick, gray clouds, those overcast days. But outside of that, we get a little sun. We do have some cold frontal passages that will be transiting across the east. Of course, this time of year we get fairly frequent cold frontal passages. But in general, it's looking fairly mild right on through Halloween. Looking mild potentially to start the month of November. And then I think after the 10th of November is really when things could potentially change as far as the pattern goes, to where it gets cooler in the east again. So just lots to be paying attention to as we enter a very dynamic time of year for not only the United States, but also for Europe. You know, Europe's been well above normal over there as far as temperatures have been going. And just anywhere in the mid-latitudes is subject to such dynamic, quick changes in the atmosphere. All right, that wraps things up this evening. I hope you enjoyed this weather map discussion, as well as a look at some longer range things I'm paying attention to. The sea surface temperature anomalies here, this really gets me. This is a big difference here in the Northeast Pacific, isn't it? I mean, look at that. And as well as the Atlantic side. All right, that wraps it up. Until next time, take care, everybody, and God bless. Thanks for subscribing to my channel. Take care. God bless.